Hey there, Trekkers and Trekkies. How you doing this week? Hopefully it's been a good one. I am doing well here. So today, actually I should go ahead and preface, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you might recall a couple of years back I did a video and I showed off the 12-inch 7 of 9 that I had, and I mentioned at the time that it was the only 12-inch figure that I had. Obviously, you guys know that now I do have the Barbies. If I can move my head, you can see them right there over my shoulder. But today we are actually going to look at Playmates. For some reason, in starting around 98, they decided to do a 12-inch line. It was part of Star Trek Insurrection. When Star Trek Insurrection came out, they did the 4.5-inch figures right there in the movie uniforms as a Target exclusive. They also did the 9-inch figures, which I don't have any of the Star Trek Insurrection 9-inch figures currently. But then they, for some reason, decided to also do a line of 12-inch figures. They only did 5 characters from Star Trek Insurrection, and they did a kind of mixed bag on the uniforms. Let me clarify, on the 9-inch figures that Playmates did, they did most of the characters in the civilian outfits that they wore while helping the Baku. I think part of that was due to the fact that when First Contact came out, they had done most of the crew. I know they did Picard, Riker, Data, and I think maybe Worf. I'd have to go back and double check in the movie uniforms. Hence, when they got to Insurrection, they decided to do them in the civilian uniforms. Which, one thing I never understood, it's something I've never put this into a video, so I'm curious on y'all's thoughts on things like the 9-inch figures and these 12-inch figures that we're going to start looking at. I don't know if even Barbie still does this. I remember when we were kids that my sister, she only would get like a big Barbie doll for like her birthday or Christmas. But throughout the year, mom would buy her these little, it was like a flat pack of a dress with shoes and, a few little accessories because it was cheap. And then she could change out the clothes. And I know back in the day, the big 12-inch G.I. Joes, they did kind of a similar thing. And I've always thought it was odd. Why did Playmates not do that for their figures? Put out one Captain Picard in the 9-inch and one in the 12-inch, and then just release the clothing for like $5-6, and you can change them into different outfits as you see fit. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that? Well, let's jump into looking at these. We are going to start off with everybody's favorite engineer, Geordi. Like I said, these are 12-inch figures. Here, let me grab my desk Worf, the 5.5-inch, just so you can get a sense of scale for how 4.5-inch, I should say. This is the Target exclusive. We'll look at Worf in the second, the 12-inch. Of how much bigger these are. These are quite massive. They're cloth uniforms. Now, here's where it gets interesting on these. For some reason, it might be a little hard to tell. My camera's not the greatest quality, but the rank pips are little plastic metallic colored beads sewn onto the fabric. But the comm badge is stitched in. I wonder if I can get that to focus good enough so you can see the stitching. And that's how they do it it's going to be like that on all of the uniforms. And I don't quite understand why they didn't make the comm badge plastic as well, or just sew on the rank pips. I mean, technically, I guess because the rank pips are different on each person, they can make one uniform. Because I suppose technically this and Data and Geordi are wearing the same thing, but they have the same rank. I don't know. Anyways, face sculpt. This is a fantastic sculpt. I'm not going to be able to get the picture quality good enough, and y'all can see my little Queenie there down there. This is a amazing sculpt. I need to actually at some point take this head and do a cast of it so I can shrink it, because this is a much better head sculpt than most of the Playmates smaller figures for Geordie, I should say. Some of the other ones are a bit debatable on the 12-inch, but we'll get to that. This one's a fantastic sculpt. So we're gonna set Geordie off over here, and in fact, we'll get Worf back out here, because next we are gonna look at Worf. And again, like I said, the rank pips are little plastic beads. Now, as I was talking about, when they made the bandolier out of a separate piece of plastic, which I would have been fine with if they'd have updated his little jewelry pieces, because at this point he was wearing, by Insurrection, he was wearing the House of Martok symbol, and not the House of Moog symbol, which is what that is. Anyways, that's a nitpick, I suppose. Also, the fact that it's kind of an odd color, and this is what it looked like brand new, is this sort of gunmetal gray, I suppose. But the face sculpt on this one, the head sculpt on this one, it's fine. I mean, it's definitely Michael Dornish, but I don't know. It doesn't have quite the same quality as Geordie's does. The hair looks fantastic. I do love the braid on here. That looks great, but especially something about the eyebrows and the eyes on this, or I can't put my finger on it. He looks a little too, it looks like his face is a little squished, is what it really comes down to for me. So that is Worf, and that is Worf. Here, I'll pull these over here so you can see the sense of scale. It's like Worf could play with himself as a doll. So we're gonna get rid of little Worf. We'll set you there. Next, we're gonna look at Data. Oh man, the camera cannot pick up his face because it's so pale. Again, this is just, you can see all three of these uniforms are essentially the same, with a different piece of cloth here and on the wrist, so that it's the red and the gold. The color is actually kind of interesting. It's a little lighter color than I think you'd think it should be, but it actually looks right, and I can't explain that. But anyways, let's see if we can get Data's face too. Yeah, it's. Wonder if hey, that helped a little bit, knocked some light down. This is actually a fairly good sculpt of Brent Spiner's face, especially for the time period of the movie. And I suppose I should point out, yeah, all of them do have the big Velcro thing in the back. And I haven't talked about articulation, but the arms do move up. The cloth kind of prevents a little bit of movement, but they do have full range of movement in the arms. The legs also do move. You can't do any kind of rotation, but you can do a nice sitting. So it's kind of funny, if you actually got the Star Trek Insurrection chair in the 12-inch size from oh man, I'm going blank on the name of the company. Exo 6, that's it. Which makes the 12-inch figures that sell for like $250. I would love some of those, but yeah, I don't make that kind of money. If somebody wants to buy me, especially a Cisco, I would love a Cisco after any of the Deep Space Nine characters, and any of the captains. for sure, all of them, but Cisco is the one I want first. Anyways, so that's our Mr. Data. We'll set him aside. Let's go this way. Here, bring him down so that we can see his face. Kind of hanging off the table there. So next we're going to look at Commander Riker. Now, they decided to go in a different direction with Commander Riker, and they put him in the dress white uniform. And I'll go ahead and spoil it for you now. Captain Picard's also in the dress white, and we'll get to that in a minute. I don't know why. I mean, I get that it's a nice looking uniform, but they had never made a Riker in the 12-inch size. They were doing this uniform. They already I mean, it's literally the same thing as Worf. The only thing different is that instead of that pip being black, it would have been gold, which is what's on his collar. Again, sewed on patch. What's interesting is that the shirt, the undershirt and the jacket are actually two separate pieces. You can have him be in just the gray colored vest. The piping work on the legs, though, that is terrific. That looks amazing. If I had pants that looked that nice, I'd wear them. Never, because I don't go out. The sculpt, again, mostly good. The eyes are a little soft, I think, but it's actually a pretty good Jonathan Frakes. They usually get him fairly good. Like I said, I think it's somewhere in the eyebrow area. It looks a little, I don't know, maybe just needs some mascara or something. But we're going to go ahead and move on to our final one, which is the good captain here in his dress white uniform. Which, I mean, the two of them look great together. You can be like, oh, they're doing a diplomatic thing. But, again, why did they not choose? I mean, and it's 4 pips. And, which, wait a minute. I'll be darned. I have not noticed that until this very moment. They did a black, it's 3 gold and 1 black. Can I get that to focus well enough? Sure enough, look at that. We all need to write into Playmates and be like, hey, in 1999, when you put out Captain Picard in the dress uniform in 12-inch scale, you messed up and gave him the wrong rank. That's funny. So everything about, again, this is the shirt. The undershirt is a separate piece, which I suspect that's how it was in the movie. I don't know that for certain. I've never looked up what the costumes actually looked like off the actors. But this head sculpt of Captain Picard might actually be my favorite of any head sculpt. Like the you know, we looked at the McFarlane one a while back, and that one's good. This is, but of course this is, you know, a significantly larger size. That was a 7-inch. This is a 12-inch, so almost double the size. But it's really good. I mean, and even the paint applications on the eyes, which I know you're probably not going to be able to see too great, but I'll try and remember to post a picture at the end of the video, so showing the details on the faces at the least. So yeah, I mean, I enjoy having these figures. I enjoy the fact that I do. It's actually one of the few lines that I have all of the, you know, the entire line of figures. I'm trying to get everybody in frame, which is cool. I don't know why they didn't make Beverly and Troy, you know, Dr. Crusher and Troy. In fact, in the 12-inch line, they only did 3 women, period. And that was Janeway, Seven, and Uhura. And they did the entire original series crew, which I think would be cool to get a hold of those, at some point. But the fact that, and again, which uniform? Well, no, they did do a Troy. I forgot about that because we're going to discuss it at some point. But they put her in her Next Generation uniform, and they didn't put anybody else in the Next Generation uniform. Weird choices were being made. this is kind of the thing that everybody talks about with Playmates, is like they were, starting in 93, they were doing so great, making great choices and going along. And then it was like after Voyager came out, in 95, starting around 96, they started doing some dumb stuff. And 97 got a little worse. And then by 98, they lost their damn mind. But that is going to be it for this one. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at these. These are figures I enjoy having on my shelf because they do look so good overall. Like I said, I'm a little, the Worf and the Riker figures are a little soft in the sculpt, but overall I really don't mind. I like having them on my shelf. We've got a few more 12-inch figures that we're going to look at, including I've got a few of the 2009 Kelvin Universe film figures to look at some point down the line. But yeah, that's the Playmates Star Trek Insurrection 12-inch figures. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you next time. Go out and make something. If you enjoy my videos and want to see more, please like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell icon. If you want to support me, you can find me on Patreon, or go over to Zazzle for prints of my artwork, t-shirts, and other cool stuff. If you're still here, why? Do you want to jam out?